first emperor's tomb. And it's at the center of what is thought to be the largest burial complex in the world.
They called him the first emperor, and he feared death more than anything. He built a tomb meant to last forever, a city underground that mirrored the empire above. For centuries, it remained untouched, its stories carried only by whispers and legend. And now, the impossible has happened, and the seal is broken. Scholars, scientists, and the world are about to glimpse what has been hidden for millennia. This is the discovery of the decade, and what has been unearthed is far stranger than anyone could have predicted. The rise of Qin Shi Huang. They say history remembers kings, but legends? Legends are written in blood and fire. And Qin Shi Huang was no ordinary ruler. He was the boy who became a king, the king who became the first emperor of China, and the emperor who wanted to live forever. But how did he rise so high, so fast, that his shadow still stretches across thousands of years? Let's take it back to where it all began. Qin Shi Huang wasn't even called that at first. His birth name was Ying. He was born in 259 BC, during a time when China was split into 7 warring states. Imagine an endless battlefield with armies clashing, alliances breaking, and betrayal around every corner. It was chaos, but from this chaos, one boy was about to rise. His father was the king of the Qin state, but even then, Zheng's early years were filled with talks of scandal. Some believed his real father wasn't the king at all, but a wealthy merchant who had an affair with his mother. Today, such a scandal may not be such a big deal, but back then it was monumental, and it casted a huge doubt on the man who would one day call himself the first emperor. And that doubt would influence the ruthless leader he became. When Ying was just 13 years old, his father died. This was an age when most kids are just starting to figure out life. But Zheng happened to inherit an entire kingdom. Of course, at first, older men ruled as his regents, whispering in the dark and thinking they could control him. But they underestimated the boy. By the time he turned 21, Zheng had stripped away their power, executed his enemies, and announced to the world that he was no puppet. He was king. But Zheng was not satisfied with just ruling his kingdom. He wanted it all, every single warring state. And he was willing to use fear, strategy, and pure force to get it. He built up his armies, strengthened his laws, and launched campaign after campaign. One by one, the other states fell. Han, Zhao, Wei, Chu, Yan, and Qi all fell, and each defeat brought him closer to his dream. And though Zheng was winning, he wasn't doing it the way other rulers before his time had done it. He demanded total loyalty and punished failure with death. His soldiers were fierce, disciplined, and absolutely terrified of letting him down. And that fear made them unstoppable, such that they committed atrocities that had never been seen at that time, all in the name of their ruler. But Zheng's campaigns were not just about brute force. In each conquest, he planned meticulously. When he attacked the state of Zhao, he cut off supplies, sent spies to create confusion, and forced surrendering soldiers to fight for him. The fall of Chu took years, with Zheng using floods, blockades, and careful timing to break their cities one by one. Each victory was calculated, each loss punished harshly. His generals learned quickly that failure could mean death, but success meant rewards and a place in the emperor's growing empire. By 221 BC, something happened that had never happened before. For the first time in history, all of China was under one ruler. Zheng declared himself Qin Shi Huang, which means first emperor of Qin. But his rise didn't stop there. Once he had power, he wanted control over every part of life. He standardized money, so everyone used the same coins. He standardized weights and measures, so trade was fair. He even made sure people wrote with the same system of characters, uniting a country that once spoke with many tongues. And to keep his people in line, he created strict laws. Break them, and the punishment was brutal. Yet, for all his achievements, Qin Shi Huang was also feared. There are scary stories about him ordering books to be burned, wiping away ideas he didn't like, and even burying scholars alive if they dared to question him. He wanted not just to rule the land, but to control thought itself. He also reorganized his government by dividing the empire into provinces ruled by officials loyal only to him. No local king or noble could challenge his authority. Roads, canals, and walls were built to connect his empire and to allow armies to move quickly across vast distances. Every river, road, and administrative office reinforced his control. Even his court was monitored carefully so that every official and advisor had to follow strict rules. Disobedience was punished and obedience rewarded. His vision was total domination, not just over land, but over people, minds, and the very structure of society. He also had an obsession that drove him. You see, Qin Shi Huang couldn't stand the idea of death. He wanted to live forever. So he sent explorers across the seas, searching for the elixir of life. He swallowed strange potions, drank mercury, and trusted alchemists who promised immortality. He believed he could cheat death itself. But even the greatest emperor cannot outrun the grave, and Qin Shi Huang's obsession with immortality would lead him to build something that still shocks the world today. Building the greatest tomb in history. When Qin Shi Huang became emperor, his plan was to rule for eternity, and to do that, he needed a tomb unlike anything the world had ever seen. This is not your run-off-the-mill burial site, but an underground kingdom where he could continue his reign in the afterlife. The construction began the moment he took the throne of Qin at 13 years old, and he wouldn't stop building until he died 36 years later. That's nearly 4 decades of non-stop construction. Historical records say he summoned 700,000 workers, consisting of soldiers, peasants, craftsmen, and prisoners, to work on his tomb. Imagine an army of laborers carving, digging, and building day and night, with no rest and no escape. Many of them would never see the sun again. For them, the emperor's dream was their living nightmare. But what exactly were they building? Ancient texts and modern discoveries paint a picture so incredible, it sounds like something ripped straight out of a fantasy novel. The tomb was a sprawling underground city, complete with palaces, offices, towers, and stables. The emperor wanted everything he had in life to be waiting for him in death, like horses, carriages, weapons, and even entertainers. He believed he would continue ruling after death, and he wanted his afterlife to look just as glorious as his empire above ground. The most famous part of his tomb was the terracotta army. Thousands upon thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each one unique, standing guard in perfect formation. These statues weren't cheap to construct, and they each had detailed armor, hairstyles, and facial expressions as if they were living soldiers frozen in clay. But the tomb's secrets go even deeper than that. Ancient historians like Sima Qian wrote descriptions of what lay inside. According to them, the burial chamber was a world in miniature. Rivers of liquid mercury flowed through the tomb, representing the great rivers of China. Mountains and valleys were recreated with bronze and precious stones. Above the chamber, pearls were placed in the ceiling to mimic stars, creating an eternal night sky for the emperor to gaze upon. And if you're thinking this sounds too wild to be true, modern science has confirmed at least part of it. Soil tests around the tomb show dangerously high levels of mercury, proving that Sima Qian's account wasn't a myth. The scale of the tomb is also staggering in sheer size. Archaeologists estimate that the mound above the burial chamber covers more than 56 square kilometers. Some suggest that the entire necropolis could hold hundreds of smaller burial sites for members of the court and the emperor's family. Each structure and miniature palace could reveal parts of the social, political, and religious life in the Qin dynasty. Modern researchers note that, if opened, the tomb could provide unprecedented insight into ancient Chinese engineering, art, and even early chemical knowledge, given the use of mercury and metal alloys. But Qin Shi Huang's worry wasn't only about the afterlife. He was also paranoid about intruders because he didn't want anyone robbing his tomb or stealing his treasures. So he designed traps. Very deadly traps. Crossbows rigged to fire automatically at anyone who entered, hidden passageways, and chambers designed to collapse on grave robbers. Imagine Indiana Jones walking into a nightmare, where every step could be his last. And the worst thing about the emperor's carefully crafted plan was the last part. You see, once the tomb was sealed, many of the workers were buried alive inside. Why? To keep the secret safe and make sure no one could reveal the layout, treasures, or the traps. Their lives were sacrificed so the emperor could rest undisturbed. It's a reminder of how far Qin Shi Huang would go for control, even in death. Legends, myths, and curses. Over the centuries, the stories about Qin Shi Huang's tomb have been told and retold. Stories of curses, myths of supernatural guardians, and whispers that opening the tomb could bring disaster. The most famous legend of them all is the curse of the tomb itself. Ancient Chinese texts hint that Qin Shi Huang ordered deadly traps to be set inside his burial chamber. Crossbows, hidden in the walls, rigged to fire automatically at anyone foolish enough to break in. Imagine stepping into the darkness of the tomb, only for arrows to come flying from nowhere. It sounds like something from a movie, but these weren't stories meant to entertain, but served as warnings. Warnings that the first emperor had done everything he could to protect his secrets forever. But the traps weren't the only threat. According to Sima Qian, the emperor filled his tomb with rivers and lakes of liquid mercury. At the time, mercury was believed to have magical, life-giving properties. Ironically, Qin Shi Huang drank mercury in his search for immortality, slowly poisoning himself. Even his burial chamber was said to be surrounded by it. Many believed that disturbing the tomb could unleash clouds of toxic mercury gas, like a curse carried on the air, waiting to strike anyone who dared to enter. Asides the mercury scare, some stories say that the emperor's spirit still haunts his tomb, watching over the treasures and soldiers buried with him. Locals in Xi'an, where the tomb lies, have passed down tales of strange lights at night, or whispers carried on the wind near the burial mound. Others claimed the souls of the workers who were buried alive inside the tomb cry out in the dark, forever trapped underground. Some accounts even speak of invisible guardians that are the spirits of the emperor's advisors and generals who are tasked with protecting the tomb from intruders. Ancient villagers claimed that at certain times of the year, a strange fog would rise from the mound, cold and heavy, making even experienced hunters and travelers avoid the area. Legends also mention that the tomb's design might include secret chambers meant to confuse and trap anyone who entered, ensuring that even if someone survived the traps and mercury, they would never find the emperor's body. There are also the omens, which the Chinese do not take lightly. Throughout Chinese history, attempts to disturb sacred sites have often been linked to disasters, such as famines, earthquakes, and even the fall of dynasties. Some believe that Qin Shi Huang's tomb is no different, that opening it could unleash chaos not just on China, but on the entire world. It's the classic curse of the pharaohs, but on a far bigger scale. Remember what happened when Tutankhamun's tomb was opened in Egypt? There were strange deaths, unexplained accidents, and a global obsession with curses. Now imagine that, multiplied by the scale of Qin Shi Huang's empire. But maybe the most scary myth is the one about immortality. Qin Shi Huang believed he would live forever, and some legends claim that, in a way, he did. That deep inside the sealed tomb, his body is perfectly preserved, untouched by time. Others say that he never really died at all, that he sleeps inside his underground palace, waiting to rise again if the tomb is ever opened, to reclaim his empire. Over the centuries, these stories created an aura of fear around the site. Travelers passing near the mound at night spoke of feeling watched, of hearing footsteps that had no source, and of fleeting shadows moving against the moonlight. Some believed that the emperor's desire to control even after death extended to influencing the living world, keeping trespassers away through these unexplainable phenomena. Science. Peering into the tomb. By the time stories of curses and rivers of mercury spread far and wide, one question kept ringing in people's heads. What if those myths were actually true? And just like that, the mystery of Qin Shi Huang's tomb stopped being an ancient legend and became a challenge for modern science. Could technology finally pierce through the earth and show the world what had been sealed away for over 2,000 years? Back in the 1970s, Chinese researchers carried out simple soil tests around the burial mound. What they discovered was mind-blowing. The mercury levels in the soil were off the charts and way higher than anything you'd expect to see naturally. Some places measured hundreds of times above normal. It lined up perfectly with what ancient Chinese historians had written thousands of years ago, that the emperor had rivers and seas of liquid mercury flowing through his underground palace. Think about the magnitude of this discovery. A ruler so obsessed with power and immortality, he had actual poisonous rivers built into his eternal resting place. But the mercury was only the beginning. Fast forward to more recent years, when scientists brought in ground-penetrating radar. They scanned deep below the surface of the mound, and what popped up on the radar blew everyone's mind. The tomb wasn't a solid block of dirt and stone, like some would have assumed. It was hollow, and inside it were massive chambers stretching in every direction, like the underground halls of some lost empire. And it gets crazier. When they sent drones and used 3D imaging, the layout of these chambers started to take shape, and what they saw looked like a star map. The design of the tomb seemed to mimic the constellations in the night sky. Imagine standing in a chamber where the ceiling mirrors the heavens and the floor is covered in flowing mercury rivers. Just like that. It doesn't feel like just a burial site anymore, but an understanding that the emperor was trying to build his own universe underground. And if that's not eerie enough, new AI models have started simulating what the inside might look like, based on the scans and ancient texts. The results are terrifying. The AI predicts that the structure is even more complex than anyone thought. It is a labyrinth of rooms, tunnels, and traps that could rival the most elaborate fantasy story. And the worst part is that every model suggests that many of the chambers are so fragile that even the slightest disturbance could cause them to collapse. This has left scientists with a huge dilemma. Do they open the tomb now and risk destroying treasures and knowledge that have been buried for over 2,000 years? Or do they wait, hoping future technology will give them a safer way in? Every answer comes with a risk, because if they wait too long, the tomb might decay naturally, and everything inside could vanish forever. But if they rush in now, a single mistake could erase priceless artifacts in an instant. Concerns about opening the tomb. For more than 2,000 years, the mound has remained unopened. The first emperor's tomb is one of the greatest archaeological mysteries on Earth, yet the central chamber had never been touched. People often ask why, and the answer is not one reason, but many. The first has to do with preservation. When farmers stumbled on the terracotta warriors in 1974, the world got its first real glimpse of Qin Shi Huang's vision. At first, the clay soldiers were still painted in bright reds, blues, and purples. But once the air reached them, the colors began to peel away. Within hours, the paint was gone. Nothing could stop it. That moment taught archaeologists a painful lesson, and that is that opening the tomb the wrong way can destroy history in front of your eyes. If the main chamber is opened too soon, the same thing could happen to murals, wooden halls, or delicate fabrics inside. One mistake, and priceless pieces of the past would be lost forever. The second reason is mercury. Since scientists proved that Sima Qian's writings about the emperor's tomb having rivers of liquid mercury flowing through it, there has been a lot of caution about probing even further. If the chamber is opened carelessly, toxic vapor could escape. That isn't only a danger to the people working at the site. It could potentially poison the area around the tomb, and that would just be a huge disaster. There's also the problem of stability. The burial mound is nearly 250 feet tall. Beneath it lies a maze of chambers and tunnels built more than 2,000 years ago. No one knows how well those structures have held up. A single wrong move could cause walls to collapse, crushing whatever treasures still remain. To archaeologists, this is a nightmare, because if they rush, they could destroy the very things they want to protect. But even if scientists and archaeologists manage to find solutions to these pending problems, there is another barrier that calls for caution. According to the lore concerning the emperor and his need for absolute control, Qin Shi Huang had engineered elaborate traps designed to take out anyone who attempted to enter his resting place. Whether such traps still exist is uncertain, but it could be a deadly adventure for any researcher who dared to enter and explore the tomb. In addition, Chinese culture is a limiting factor. In China, disturbing the dead is taken very seriously. Qin Shi Huang was not just any man. He was the first emperor, the one who united the country. His resting place is seen by many as sacred. Opening the tomb would not only be an archaeological project, but an act with deep symbolic weight. For many people, leaving it sealed is a way of showing respect. While all these might be present concerns for not breaking open the doors to this ancient wonder, the wait is not entirely fruitless. Archaeology is advancing faster than ever, and new tools are being developed to protect fragile artifacts the moment they are uncovered. If scientists wait, they may be able to open the tomb in a way that keeps everything safe. Waiting might feel like patience, but it's also a strategy. The goal is to make sure that when the chamber is finally opened, nothing is lost. Still, not everyone agrees. Some argue that time itself is the real danger. Groundwater, erosion, and natural decays could already be destroying what lies within. To them, leaving the tomb sealed may mean watching it slowly collapse in silence. The debate continues, with no easy answer. What might be inside? With all the risks surrounding the tomb and the reasons it remains sealed, one question naturally follows: what could actually be hidden within? The truth is, no one can say for sure. Still, between old records and what archaeologists have uncovered around the site, there are plenty of clues. Some believe the burial chamber holds unimaginable wealth. Qin Shi Huang ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen at that point. He wasn't the type to go small. If he wanted to take his kingdom into the afterlife, the tomb might be filled with gold, jade, pearls, and rare stones. Others think the real treasure may not be precious stones at all, but written texts. Qin Shi Huang was the emperor who standardized writing across China. If scrolls or carved tablets survived in the sealed air of the tomb, they might contain records of battles, decrees, or laws we've never seen. Imagine historians finding his personal orders or a detailed account of how he unified China. That kind of discovery would be as valuable as gold. There are also descriptions from ancient writers that paint the tomb as a model of the empire itself. They claimed that rivers of mercury ran through it, similar in shape to the great waterways of China. If that's even partly true, then the tomb might look like an underground version of his empire. That is, a miniature world with palaces, towers, and flowing streams. Another strong possibility might be weapons. The terracotta army already revealed thousands of finely made bronze swords, spears, and crossbows. If Qin Shi Huang kept his finest collection close to him in death, the tomb might hold his personal arsenal. But some stories go even darker. They say that the workers who built the tomb never left it. If that's true, there could be human remains sealed inside, as attendants and guards meant to serve their ruler forever. Whether those tales are exaggerations or not, they add to the sense of mystery about what's waiting down there. It is also possible that there are priceless art hidden in the tomb. Qin Shi Huang controlled everything in life, including roads, coins, weights, and even thought. Inside his tomb, there could be paintings, carvings, or ceremonial objects made to show how he wanted to be remembered. If any of those survived, they would offer a rare glimpse into the culture of his time. The biggest mystery of all, though, might be the man himself. Did he take personal items with him? Armor he wore? Letters? Maybe even clues about his obsession with immortality. If the tomb really holds pieces of his life, then it could finally answer the question of who Qin Shi Huang was, not just as a ruler, but as a person. For now, these ideas remain only guesses, but each one is enough to explain why the tomb is still one of the greatest mysteries on Earth. It promises wonders, maybe even shocking truths, but no one knows which until the day it is finally opened. Expert views and ongoing debate. The question of opening Qin Shi Huang's tomb is a heated debate among experts. On one side are preservationists who caution that even touching the surface of the tomb could be disastrous. Over 2,000 years underground has made everything inside extremely fragile. The air, light, or temperature could cause priceless artifacts to crumble the moment the seal is broken. Some warn that any attempt to enter could destroy what has survived for centuries before we even get a chance to understand it. Then, there are the voices calling for exploration. They argue that the tomb is one of the most important pieces of history in the world. If handled carefully with modern technology, opening it could teach us more about ancient China than any book or artifact outside its walls. The tomb could reveal details historians have only dreamed about, such as weapon making, urban planning, certain rituals, and even details about the emperor's life. These experts believe the knowledge inside could change our understanding of the Qin dynasty and even human history itself. Historians, meanwhile, focus less on the risk and more on the symbolism. To them, the tomb is a reflection of the emperor's life and mind. Every detail we know about it, like the size, army of clay soldiers, and the rivers of mercury, shows how much Qin Shi Huang feared death and demanded control. For historians, it is the ultimate example of how power and fear can build an entire empire. They point out that, even without opening it, the tomb teaches lessons about authority, ambition, and the lengths one man went to leave his mark on the world. Archaeologists often find themselves caught between these perspectives. They are drawn to the tomb's potential discoveries, but know the risks are enormous. Many have worked on the site for decades, scanning the mound, testing the soil, and mapping what lies beneath without ever touching the sealed chamber. Some admit frankly that they may never see the inside themselves, and yet that very uncertainty keeps the debate alive. Some researchers have also pointed out certain technological challenges. Even with modern tools, there's still so much about the tomb's layout that remain unknown, and any misstep could collapse tunnels or ruin hidden chambers. They are exploring ways to use robots and remote sensors to gather information without human entry, hoping to create a balance between safety and discovery. There is also debate about how much intervention is appropriate. Should every artifact be removed and catalogued, or should some remain untouched so that the tomb is preserved like a time capsule? The discussion also touches on cultural and ethical questions. Some voices argue that opening the tomb could violate the emperor's final wishes, turning a resting place into a spectacle. Others suggest that humanity has a responsibility to learn from the past, even if it means taking calculated risks. It's a debate without easy answers. Every argument for exploration meets a counter-argument for caution, and every suggestion of preservation clashes with the desire to discover something extraordinary. Could the secrets of Qin Shi Huang's tomb change what we know about history? Are we even ready to face what might still be hidden beneath the earth? Or are some mysteries meant to stay sealed forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.